And they said, we can finally do it because we couldn't agree on who was going to be the guardian. So they just didn't do it because they couldn't, get their heads round who it was going to be. I don't recommend that.
Welcome to the Bishop Stortford Community Podcast, the show where we shine a light on the incredible businesses, community leaders and local legends shaping our town. I'm your host, James O'Donnell, and today we are joined by Nicola Westcott. Nicola, great to have you on the show.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
Not a problem. Nicola, for those of us who don't know you yet, who are you and what do you do here in Bishop Stortford?
Well, I am Nicola Westcott and I am a non-practising solicitor will writer. So I set up my business back in London. I was a lawyer in a previous life, but in those days, lawyers were particularly unflexible when you have a family. And so what I did was I set up Westcott Wills in 2012 from my home in the East End of London. And that was to enable me to continue to enjoy the career that I enjoyed, but also to be able to spend time with my children. So I started the business in London, and obviously my network was young families. I knew a lot of young families. All my friends said, hurry up and get on with it because, we want to be first in your queue. We want a will. So it just really spiraled from there. Then we moved to Bishop Stortford in 2015 and I just moved the business. So I had a 2-year-old by then. So I've had 3 children. My youngest was 2 when we moved to Bishop Stortford. So I sort of gradually started. But yeah, I've built the business since then, and there's lots of business out there, and I like to think that I offer something a little bit different from if you were to go into a law firm, insofar as I offer a very personal service. I go to see people in their homes. I try to make them feel comfortable because they're usually quite nervous about doing a will because it's quite a nerve-wracking thing to get on and do, and that's why people tend to put it off. But I like to put them at ease. I go to see them in their home where they're most comfortable, talk to them about their dogs, their family. And more often than not, afterwards, they'll say, that was much easier than I was expecting. So that's the goal.
Fantastic. So before people meet with you to talk through doing a will, what do you think they're most worried about?
Some of the things that stop people from doing a will, believe it or not, is guardianship for their children. And I think amongst younger families, that is the biggest thing that they worry about. Who is going to look after my children if something happens to me, or if they're a couple, if something happens to both of us? And believe it or not, I've had some clients who've come to me to do their wills whose children have grown up and left home, and they said, we can finally do it because we couldn't agree on who was going to be the guardian. So they just didn't do it because they couldn't get their heads round who it was going to be. I don't recommend that. But what I do is I'll sit down with people and I'll talk about the people in their family. I'll talk about their friends, and we'll see if we can come up with some kind of a solution. And there's always a solution. There is always, somebody, we can have fallback guardians. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to choose someone and that person is set in stone. Obviously, logistics matter as well, because some people have families who live abroad, and that may not necessarily be right when the children are little, because they're obviously located here for school and everything. But once they get a bit older, maybe it is easier for them to travel abroad or vice versa. So yeah, guardianship, I think, is the key stumbling block and the big worry amongst younger families. The older generation, they're worried about their family home. They're worried about being able to protect that for their children, and they're also worried about it being taken away to pay for care home fees. So there's a really good trust that you can put into your will that I help people with, which protects your spouse during their lifetime, but it ring fences the asset so that your children very definitely will receive that at the end of the day, either on the death of the spouse, or let's say if it was a spouse from a blended family, if that spouse remarries, then your children will get the asset. And the secondary advantage of the trust is if you set it up for legitimate wealth preservation reasons, the government can't take your house away to pay for care home fees if the survivor then goes into long-term residential care. So it's got a double advantage.
This episode is supported by a proper local clinic just outside of Bishop Stortford. Most people don't wake up planning to see a chiropractor. It's the stiff neck that won't ease, the bad back that's killing your sleep, or that pain that suddenly makes work and family life harder. Takeley Chiropractic help people get out of pain and, even more importantly, stay out of pain. They don't rush you. They take time to understand you and make you feel better. They want to understand what you want to get back to doing, whether that's work, sport, or just spending time with your family. They're a local team, highly qualified, and recently they won an award for outstanding patient care. Have a look at takeleychiropractic.co.uk and see what they're all about. It seems that there's these problems or imagined issues that people have for not having done a will, that actually, if they were to talk to you, that they would evaporate.
Yes. Yes,
People
there's all
should just
sorts
do
of
it.
problems that can arise because obviously you're falling back onto the law of intestacy if you don't have a will. For cohabiting couples, that's really bad because cohabiting couples have absolutely no rights under the law of intestacy. The way it works is if there's a surviving spouse, they get everything unless there are children. And then it's even not great for the surviving spouse if there are children, because the surviving spouse only gets the first 322,000 and then the remainder will be divided between the children and the surviving spouse. So not having a will is definitely not ideal. Even if you're single, it's really important to have a will, and if you've got children especially, because you can appoint guardian in the will.
So what's your message to people in Bishop Stortford that haven't pulled their finger out and made it happen yet?
Absolutely, 100%, definitely get your will in place. It's a no-brainer, really. Once you've done it, you'll be so relieved that it's done, and it'll be another thing ticked off. The other thing I would say to do, which may be almost as important as the will itself, even more important, I think, is lasting powers of attorney. So that is in the event that you don't die but you lose capacity, there's no automatic right, even for husbands and wives, to be able to make decisions for each other in the event of loss of capacity. So I always talk to my clients about lasting powers of attorney as well. And I offer a no obligation first meeting anyway, so there's no cost until after the meeting. And then I present all of my fixed prices to the client at the end of the meeting, and they can decide what, if anything, they want to go ahead with. So it's all very relaxed.
Sounds great. There seems like you are obviously just plugged in to how this works. This is what you've been doing for years now. Is this something that is a constantly evolving practice with the laws that are brought in by different governments? Is this something you need to stay on top of?
Yeah, so there hasn't been a massive amount of change in the legislation, apart from a couple of times over the course of I qualified in 2003, which seems it doesn't seem so long ago, but it is really a long time ago. Since then, there have been a few big changes, but generally speaking, things remain quite level, but I try to keep up with everything. Obviously, I keep my continual professional development up, and I belong to the Society of Trust and Estate Practitioners. And a few years back during COVID, I thought it would be a good idea to do my advanced will writers exam, which I'm not quite sure why I thought that was a good idea, as I had a 7-year-old at home and I was trying to homeschool him, but I did manage to achieve it and I got distinction. So I was pretty happy with that. But yes, so now I still belong to the Society of Trust and Estate Practitioners, and I take regular continual professional development with them. So yeah, things do change. The budget's always a source of great fun. It was the 2006 Finance Act, which was the dreadful one that happened when I had my first child, and I came back to work after I had her, and this Finance Act 2006, which had changed so many things in inheritance tax, and the taxation of trusts was a big thing in the Finance Act 2006. Yeah, that was a nightmare. But I think if you keep up with, generally speaking, obviously I was busy having my child at the time, but generally speaking, you got to keep up with things.
Are there things that you've got up and coming throughout the year that you like, events where people might be able to come and see you?
Yes.
or listen to you talk?
I do. I'm literally in about an hour's time, I'll be talking at the Stansted Lunch Club and the title of my talk is Where There's a Will, There's a Way. So I'm going to give a lot of what I've just said now. I'm going to give some case studies on what can go wrong if you don't do your will. So that will be hopefully very interesting, and I'm hoping well attended. But I've also got a couple of other talks coming up. I've got one in February at the Women in Business Network, which I belong to. So every so often members will give a presentation at the group, and I've got one in March at the Chamber, I think. Or is it the other way round? No, I think February is the Chamber and March is Women in Business Network. So the Chamber of Commerce is also a really great networking. I believe that business is done through networking, and even if you don't feel that you're getting the business through the networking, it will come eventually. And it's word of mouth. It's word of mouth and in person. I do love being in person. I mean, this is great. I think podcasts have got their space, but you can't beat meeting people in person.
And I think, you never know who people know as well when you're meeting people.
Absolutely, yeah. It may not be that they're not the right client for you, but they might. The next day, you can bet your life they're going to meet someone and suddenly it will come up in conversation and they'll go, I was just speaking to someone yesterday who does that and can help you. And I think that's the same for all businesses in Bishop Stortford. We have to get out there and help each other and listen to what other businesses are saying.
Where's the best place if people are listening to this and they haven't sorted their wills yet, or they know someone that hasn't sorted their wills yet and they want to talk to you, Nicola? Where's the best place for them online to find you?
So I've got a website, which is probably the place to start with because it's got lots of information on the website as well. But I believe we've also got a booking link on the website, or at least telephone numbers that you can get hold of us, and we can send you a booking link. But the website is westcottwills.co.uk.
Excellent. We'll put a link to that in the show notes. So if anybody's listening or knows someone that hasn't got to this point yet, that they need to get it sorted, they can reach out and have a conversation.
Fabulous. Thank you.
That sounds great. Okay, Nicola, are you ready for some Stortford Spotlight questions?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Today's podcast is brought to you by a great local business helping people take back their time in Bishop Stortford. If your weekends are getting swallowed by cleaning instead of time with your family, I get it. As a dad of 2 young boys, I know how fast those moments can go, and I've been let down by cleaners before. That's why I use Time For You Cleaning. They're reliable, friendly, and give you one less thing to worry about. If you want your time back, head to timeforyou.cleaning and let them know the podcast sent you. Get back your precious time and support local. Right, back to the show. Fantastic. These are 3 fast questions that we ask everybody that comes onto the Bishop Stortford Community Podcast. First question. If you could put one sentence on a billboard in Jackson Square, what would it say and who needs to hear it the most?
Okay, well, I'm actually going to cheat because I've got 2 things now. So I know I told you before that I had something from my son. Now, he's very much likes this maxim. It's from a Greek philosopher, Heraclitus. No man steps in the same river twice, for it is not the same river and it is not the same man. So that's all about change and how we have to embrace change, and that change is a good thing. So I really like that. And he comes out with that in conversation all the time at meal times, and I love it. I love it.
But that sent chills.
Pardon?
That sent chills through me, that did. When I knew about it's never the same river that you step through, but also not being the same man that steps into the same river as well.
So we're constantly changing and our environment is constantly changing. And I think that should give people heart that even if things are not going in the way that they hoped that they would go, it doesn't mean that they're not progressing and something good is going to come out of it eventually. So yeah, I think that's a really nice thing to think about when you're going through difficult times. Life is constantly changing, but you're constantly changing. And I think for the better. So, but my second one was, which came into my zone this morning, because I was feeling a little bit anxious about giving the presentation at the Stansted Lunch Club, which I'm sure will be absolutely fine. But it's my favourite Bible verse, actually. It's do not be anxious about anything. And someone sent it to me this morning, not knowing that I was going to be on the podcast. And I just think it's such a nice short, do not be anxious about anything. It works for religious, non-religious. And I think in the world that we're living in, isn't that nice to have something like that up on a billboard? Do not be anxious about anything, because at the end of the day, we're in larger hands.
Indeed. Does it have any follow-up to that from the verse in like practicalities about how to
Yes,
manage?
the verse goes on to say, do not be anxious today, because today will have enough troubles and tomorrow will be a new day, something like that. I can't tell you exactly what it says, but it's do not be anxious today. Do not be anxious for today, because tomorrow will bring new things. Now I'm going to have everybody who knows what the Bible verse says ring in and say that's not quite right,
But it's the feeling, isn't it, that comes across. And I think, what your two great lines up there, and for us all to consider. Yeah, these are making me really think now, Nicola. Thanks for that. That's
welcome.
They're wonderful.
Yeah.
Question number 2. Where do you go in Stortford that you secretly hope never gets too popular?
Well, that's easy. It's the Japanese restaurant up Apton Road called Ikura, and it's such a lovely Japanese restaurant. It does the sushi is divine, and they make these wonderful spring rolls, which they're green, and inside I think they've got edamame beans inside, and they're really very delicious. They do Asahi beer, which is my favorite. Lovely, small, cozy place, and yeah, it's brilliant. And I've lived in Japan for a year, so I know what good sushi tastes like. So yeah. It's great.
What a fantastic recommendation.
But it's
do you always
small,
go in?
so
Do they
I hope
take away?
not too many people discover it.
No. But there's always people in whenever I go past it. I've not given it a go
You
yet.
must.
My oldest was interested in sushi when he was young. He used to eat it by the handful, but now he's kind of moved away from it. But maybe I'll take him down there one day after school.
Definitely do. It's worth a try.
We'll do that. Last question. Who's doing something special in town that more people need to know about?
Well, then I'd have to shout out to the Hummingbird Cancer Support Group, because I've been through cancer myself a few years ago. So I know how important it is having a good support, either a good support group or good support in general. And they provide lovely people that you can talk to when you're going through your treatment, but also they have therapists, wellness therapists, who provide reflexology, relaxing treatments. And I just think that's really great for people who are going through any form of cancer treatment, and it's run by volunteers, and they need more volunteers. So if there's anyone listening who's in the wellness environment, please do reach out and have a look at Hummingbird Cancer Support. I think they meet from 10 till 1 at Great Haddon Golf Club every Monday. So you can just drop in. If you're having cancer treatment, just drop in, see what it's like. It's a group of lovely people. And yeah, they're definitely my number one shout out. Although there are many brilliant businesses in Bishop Stortford, but I had a good think, and they would be my top.
I'm very keen to get someone from Hummingbird Cancer Support onto the podcast as well. So if you know someone there,
I do. Paula,
please
yes.
go and give them a poke, and
I will.
We'll feature them on the podcast, because you're not the first person to drop them in.
Okay.
And I'd be very keen to shine a light on the work that they do, because it's obviously very important.
Yeah, really important.
And it's a fantastic cause. Nicola, last time, your website again, if anybody's interested in having a little conversation with you.
westcottwills.co.uk.
Excellent. That will be in the show notes. I'll also put Nicola's social media handles into the show notes as well. So if anybody wants to follow along, particularly on LinkedIn, I've noticed recently quite a lot of useful information that's being shared there, Nicola. So if anybody wants to follow along with what's going on out there.
Yes, I am on LinkedIn as well. So yeah, link in.
Yeah, I'll do that. Nicola, that's your first ever podcast. That's done.
I know, yes.
Well done. That's a wrap. Thanks for joining us today on the Bishop Stortford podcast.
And thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode and you want to support the show, hit follow, leave a quick review on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, share it on your socials or with someone in town who you think should hear it, or someone in town that you think should be talking to Nicola. If you know a local legend, someone from Hummingbird Cancer Support, or another great cause that you think we should feature next on the podcast, drop their names in the comments and I can follow up with them and we can shine a light on the work that they are doing to make Bishop Stortford the place that it is. Again, Nicola, thank you so much for joining me today on the Bishop Stortford Community Podcast.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
This episode is brought to you by True Tone Media. If you want a podcast, testimonials, or a better way to tell your story, but you keep feeling stuck because video feels awkward or cringe, that's exactly what we fix. True Tone Media creates conversational video for your business without that cringe. If you know you need to produce content but don't know where to start, hit the link in the show notes and we can have a chat. Okay, back to the show.